Welcome to A Bit of Insight, where we explore how to live well, travel far, and inspire others along the way. I'm your host, Lisa Mosbey, and if you're ready to design a life you don't need a vacation from, you're in the right place. Freedom isn't just about having the ability to go, it's about having the confidence that everything behind you is handled when you leave. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host of A Bit of Insight, and today we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention, especially for those of us building businesses and dreaming about more freedom, more travel, and more flexibility. Because here's the truth: freedom isn't just about where you go, it's about how secure you feel when you get there. And today I'm joined by Dr. Susan Taple, a business owner, educator, and advocate for protecting individuals and businesses through legal and identity support. After nearly 2 decades in nonprofit leadership, she stepped into entrepreneurship and now leads two growing businesses. She travels the world while helping other people protect what they're building. She's also deeply passionate about how women support one another in business and what it really means to move into the future with confidence as a leader. Susan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Lisa. Very nice introduction.
Oh, thanks. Is there anything you'd like to add? I always get people's introductions and I kind of pare it down to how I see them, but is there anything else that you'd like our audience to know about you?
I think I'm just a typical business owner who has the ability to also take like a good trip or two a year. Like I make travel a priority in my life, but I'm very much also at home working the rest of the year,
Yeah.
in
And
between trips. Yes.
yeah. And you know that I'm getting ready for a trip. I'm this year it's Spain and Portugal, and I've been, are the beneficiaries on things? Is my will up to date? We should do that before we leave the country. Most of us need to have those things updated on a regular basis. But for me, it's every year I kind of do a big annual trip outside of the country, and that's when I update and I look at those things. But you made the shift from nonprofit leadership into owning your business. What did that open up in terms of your lifestyle and the freedom that you were able to create in your life?
It was a big difference to me. It felt like a very big difference from going from a W-2 employee to being a business owner. And there's a lot of exciting good things that happened. Like I could take a French class at 11 if I wanted to on Thursdays, because I had actually been told when I had a job one time I couldn't do that. Um, so it's those kinds of freedoms, making choices about your day and your life and your lifestyle, maybe not waking up with an alarm clock every day if I don't want to. But on the other hand, you have to be prepared for the change in income. Now, maybe there's going to be some exciting income things that happen, but there may also be some disappointments or some lengths of time between when you're able to actually pay yourself. So you have to have that in place as well.
And I know many women dream about more flexibility and travel, especially. It has been coming up over and over. It's been prevalent in my life for a long time. What do you think holds folks back, or specifically holds women back from creating the space to travel?
And I certainly can't speak for all women, but I feel like the women that I know that are in that position, it's their circumstances, it's money, it's family obligations, it's having kids or a spouse that don't want to travel, or even if they're single, who's going to go with them? Because not everybody wants to go on an international trip if they're not with someone that they're going to travel well with, or who wants to go too. Um, but I think it also, there's fear, if it's something they haven't done before, it seems daunting. It sounds exciting, but it can be taking a leap for people if you didn't, I grew up with family that thought travel was super important, and we made educational vacations out of all of the time off. And so, I remember being sort of dragged around the Louvre, you know, but that was just my family values. So it was instilled in me from a young age that this is a great way to live, and this is like just something you want to do to be a good citizen of the earth, to
Yeah.
travel and know more about what is happening everywhere.
Yeah. and just seeing how other people live. We're more alike than we are different. But there are rules in different countries, and you can't chew gum and spit it on the street, or you'll get ticketed in some places. You can't sit on steps outside. They don't want people loitering, and you'll get ticketed. Like, there's all these interesting rules, and it's important to look up those rules. I know for me, travel was just something that was on my heart for as long as I can remember. And so when I started phasing into or moving into those retirement years, I started my own travel agency. And now people don't have to be afraid of going by themselves. They can go with me. That's what I do, is bring those small groups together. But the big piece is fear. And that's what I've been aware of. For me, fear of leaving my home, fear of leaving my country is part of that. And I think legal and identity protection fall into that. So I want to talk about, how travelers prepare for that. They may not think about it, but I want to open that door to get them thinking about it today. And how do they prepare for legal and identity protection? Where are people most vulnerable when they're on the move?
I say getting your wallet stolen when you're away from home is a big one. I mean, that's a showstopper. How are you going to get on the airplane if you don't have ID? So that's a big thing that I know can happen, or having your hotel room, having things taken out of your hotel room, a theft, um, making the mistake and getting on the wrong bus and not knowing where you are. Ending up, I was in Japan one time and I just was taking a bus because I assumed it would make a circle. And the bus driver pulled over and was like, "You need to get off the bus and cross the street and go back that way, because like where we're going, you don't want to go."
Oh,
You know,
thank goodness that he.
you can make these mistakes and then have a consequence you're not prepared for. So, I mean, the business that I'm in, Legal Shield and ID Shield, having those things in place are there to support you when something happens, like you lose your wallet or you lose your passport, or you have
How
a
do they help you with
hotel.
that? How do they help you with that, Susan?
So we have a whole program for a stolen wallet. So you would call ID Shield and say, my wallet was stolen, and they will tell you what to do and help you make the right decisions. And then you can tell them where you are and what's going on, and they will help you move forward given whatever your circumstance is. So
I
yeah, but
always
I mean,
curious.
before you leave, you really do want to have your will in place, your healthcare directives, durable power of attorney, financial power of attorney, so that if something happens and you need someone else to write your rent check, that those things are in place. If you can't get back, yeah. So there's a
That's a
number
good
of ways that they can support you.
Yeah. I usually travel with a second passport. And so, unless I need my passport, that's the one that I have on me. And I keep the other one usually in a safe or in a safe place wherever I am. Sometimes the front desk will hold those for you if you don't want to leave it in the room, or if you don't want to travel with it. And then I also have an old driver's license. So I'm a Florida resident, but I have a Nevada license and I have a Wisconsin license that never got turned in. And foreigners aren't necessarily going to look for that expiration date on those. So if somebody did pick your pocket, I always have two. I always have two wallets with me that has identification and some cash in it, so that if I did get in trouble or held up, that one's the one that goes away. And that I learned that from a friend who moved to Brazil, and he carried two wallets, and he was not pickpocketed, but held up more than once, multiple times. And he learned that trick himself, or I don't know if somebody told him about it, but that's a good way to protect yourself from some of that stuff. Having our legal documents in line is important to us here as it is when we're traveling. But when something goes wrong while we're traveling, whether it's identity theft or legal issues or business concerns on the way back home, are we just a 1-800 number away? What's the process there?
Yeah, anytime somebody has a legal plan, an legal shield plan, they're just calling their law firm. And a lot of times with travel, what people end up talking to the attorneys about is, an excursion that they were promised, that, they get all the way out to this destination off the cruise ship, and the one thing they really wanted to do doesn't happen. Or, the parasailing falls through, and that was the whole point of the trip. So if there are things where someone is at fault or there's some sort of repercussion that the attorneys can help with, that's a big thing that they do. If your travel plans things you paid for don't pan out, or so that's a great thing. Lost luggage, airlines canceling flights, and then what they do to make up for it if you don't feel like that was appropriate, that's something you can talk to the law firm about as well. Yeah.
And how does Legal Shield support someone who isn't just in one place, but living a more mobile lifestyle like I do?
So we have 40 law firms that protect us in the United States. So when you are a Minnesotan living in Minnesota, we're calling our law firm here Wagner, Faulkner, and Judd. But if you were in Florida for a period of time, then you would be calling the Florida law firm if that was your current residency.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then
But if
for
you live
those,
in Minnesota and you have a problem in Florida, the Minnesota law firm will try to handle it. But if they need to use the Florida law firm, they've got that at their leisure. So that's available too.
so they're all connected. You have
Yeah,
access wherever you are, doesn't matter.
right, right. Which is
For
very,
entrepreneurs
that
who
is peace
travel,
of mind.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask for entrepreneurs who travel, what are the risks of leaving their business unprotected while they're away?
I think every business owner, entrepreneur knows that there's always that foreboding feeling when you are not able to run into the office or run into the clients or, talk to a staff person. So there's those kinds of things, the mice will play when the cat's away. So I think if someone who has staff, they're always concerned that staff aren't going to give it their best game, or there's mistakes and things that come up, and you want to handle that, and you're not there, and that's difficult. But also, from if you're a solopreneur salesperson, I find that taking time away from my sales position, my pipeline will know it in a few weeks down the road. I can come back from my trip and everything seems fine. And then a few weeks out, I'm like, it's kind of slow. And I'm like, you know why? Because I didn't have the consistency and the discipline when I was on the trip to be making the connections and reaching out and doing follow-ups. It catches up with you.
So do you
So
find
you
that you have
do
to work
really,
while you're traveling then?
I mean, I think you have to decide. Is this a trip I'm not going to? And I know that when I come back, I'm going to have to really put the pedal to the metal. Or are you going to say, you know what, if I can do half an hour a day and stay in touch, maybe I will feel better. So I think there's both kinds of vacations you want to take or trips. But like a big client issue or any sort of crisis, you're the business owner, that's on you. And I mean, I have been in, London recently on the phone trying to solve a problem. And I'm standing in like, some gorgeous gift shop or Harrods or something, but I'm in the corner, talking to people trying to solve a problem, and you just have to do it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of tricky with the technology. It's easy to do and get sucked into it. So my intention this trip is not to bring a computer with me, which I have never ever done. I mean, it went to Africa and Peru, and it's been everywhere. But this time, no, it's not going to Spain and it's not going to Portugal. But I will have my own phone, and I use international data plans. I use eSIMs on my card, so I have unlimited data while I'm on the ground in whatever country I'm in. So I can do everything from my phone. I can access my documents. I can access all of those important, things, contracts, whatever it is. I'm capable of doing it. But I think we also need to empower people back home, whether it's a virtual assistant or you watch my business, I'll watch your business. If you have somebody you can cooperate with in that respect. Do you have any experience from a legal perspective? Is that a good idea, a bad idea? When you kind of give somebody else the keys to the kingdom, there's always risk.
Yeah. And that is the kind of consultation you can call the law firm and talk to them about and say, here's my situation. I was thinking about giving this person my iPad so they can actually read my emails and respond to clients, and then, reach out to my employees and tell them what's needed. And the law firm will help you see the good and bad of that. And they can even come up with an agreement or a job description for that particular position so that they will help you put some guardrails in. Like, for example, you might be leaving someone with a credit card that you might not normally give a credit card to. So they can also talk to you about what's the policy, what's the rule around this. So there's a number of ways they can give you some ideas that probably haven't thought of.
None of those. Great tips. Thank you. I know that you've studied women's mentorship networks. How important is community when you're building a life that includes travel or freedom, nomad?
Well, if I didn't have an awesome dog sitter, I couldn't go anywhere,
Oh,
right? I mean, so she is part of my tribe. So I mean, even just from like that practical standpoint, yeah, you have to have that. And we just booked a river cruise for a year from now, and we're going on the exact river cruise because we talked with other people. I talked with someone who went on a river cruise, and she told me that the other people on the river cruise told her, this is not a good river cruise. This is the one you should do. So I'm doing that one.
okay.
So it's just gathering that information and asking other people what they know. She saved me hours of research. And then when I called the travel agent that I'm using, she was like, "Oh, that's the best cruise," like so. I mean, I think that's important. You want for sure people to. We had somebody check our house recently because I thought there might be some shenanigans going on at our house. So just like knowing neighbors and being able to call them and say, like, can you see if there's any cars in my driveway? That kind of thing. A friend of mine went to the No Kings March and she wrote my phone number and name on her arm in marker because she thought if my phone is taken away from me, I at least can call Susan and, she'll help solve the problem. So, I mean, I think it's very important, right? Especially for women. I know women who will, like if you and I went out to a late dinner, we might say, well, call me when you get home. A
Yeah.
call, we'll make sure we both get home. It's that kind of thing. If you're like hiking through India, you might want somebody to make sure you got back to the hotel.
And I
So,
am a
yeah,
solo traveler. I do that a lot. I have an e-bike and I was down in Florida and I was biking and I called my friend Leanne and said, "Hey, turn on 360 so you know where I'm at. I am in the middle of nowhere and there's a lot of gators and there's bear signs and some of the roads are paved and some are not and I'm not going to turn back quite yet, but I'll call you in an hour."
yeah,
You
exactly.
do have to. You do have to have that. And I find myself biking and kayaking a fair amount by myself. And so there's always somebody that I can let know. And that Life 360 app, if you have some friends that you don't mind if they know where you're at, you don't have to have it on all the time, but I do use that. I flip it on and she can see where I'm at. And if I'm out, if I haven't called, she can check and see, okay, is she still on the map? Is she still out there? Maybe she doesn't have cell service or something of that nature. So there's ways that we can protect ourselves. But I want to know, do you have any sense of what the real cost of not having protection in place is, both personally and professionally?
Well, I mean, I think you almost couldn't even put a price on it, but if you, for example, we have our business plans come with trial defense. So the peace of mind is a huge piece that you can't put a price on. And because you're calling, we train people and educate people to call early and be preventative and proactive. So it's hard to, figure out what making a bad decision that never happened would have cost you. But even like the trial defense, it's 100 hours a year. So if you are in a situation as a business owner and you are sued, this could be talking about saving you something like $50,000 in trial defense expense. And so it's we save people large amounts of money. It can be small. You can Delta lost someone I work with. His name's Bill. Delta lost his suitcase recently. The jetway they pulled his plane landed and they pulled up at the gate and they unloaded the luggage while they were struggling with the jetway and they couldn't fix the jetway. So they ended up backing up the aircraft and driving to a totally different concourse. So, instead of getting off at concourse C, they got off at concourse G. Well, the luggage was never to be found again. Everyone on the plane lost the luggage, is my understanding. So Delta gave him $30. And he called his attorney, his Legal Shield law firm, and he said, I would like a little more than $30. And so the law firm sent a letter to Delta and he got $700 back for his suitcase. So, I mean, that's handy. So there's all sorts of ways that we support people and save them money, depending on, what the situation is and what the attorneys can legally do and how the company's going to respond. Delta could have thrown the letter in the trash, but they didn't. They don't want that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to know, but we're out there every day protecting business owners and talking to somebody before they hire, talking to somebody before they fire, responding to a complaint from a client after you talk to an attorney, before you are hot under the collar and then say something you shouldn't have said. So it's those kinds of things that we're trying to educate people on doing when they have the plan. It doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone and ask an attorney. And many, many situations are legal. Actually, a legal situation is any situation where the advice of an attorney could be helpful. So that's a lot of situations because
Really
there's
is.
legal angles to many, many parts of our lives.
And sometimes we just don't know. And being able to have access to attorneys at affordable prices makes that information more accessible. We use the internet, but that we don't always get the best answer. We use AI, and that still there's room for interpretation and there's mistakes made there. We've all experienced that. So having those services, resources in place makes all the difference in the world. When you need them, they're available. I'm going to ask you this. What are three things every woman should have in place before she's traveling more frequently?
Well, she should have her will done. And I would say her estate planning. That would be one thing. The estate planning, which includes the will, the healthcare directives, and the power of attorneys, so that other people can speak on her behalf if they need to. And I would also go to a health doctor because if you're traveling internationally, there may be some antibiotics you can bring with you. There may be some vaccines you need. And I would say her sense of adventure and curiosity, right?
Exactly. Talk to other people who have been there before you. Get ideas. Have a plan. If your plan doesn't go as planned and it starts raining or you have issues, what's plan B or plan C? Have a plan behind the plan because things don't always go the way that you expect it when you're traveling. I love that. Any other thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience today about protecting their identity and protecting their business?
Identity theft is perpetual. It's not leaving us, so it is really smart to have what I think is the best plan out there, which is ID Shield. Because when you do have identity theft, ours comes with restoration, and we're going to put it back to the way it was before. And it's just a matter of time. We are all going to be victims of identity theft. So that's unfortunate, but there's a solution out there, and we have to learn to live in the new world with it. So yeah, it's being educated and informed and having services to protect you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today. Folks, there is something I've noticed in the women I travel with. The ones who enjoy it the most aren't just adventurous. They feel secure. They know their life back home is handled and they can actually be present where they are. Susan, this conversation really brings everything full circle for me. So thank you again. And because living well and traveling far isn't just about dreaming big, it's about building a life that can support the kind of freedom that you're looking for. And when you have the right foundations in place, you don't just go, you go with confidence. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who's ready to step into more freedom in their life. And if you're looking for more conversations like this about living well, traveling far, and inspiring others, make sure you subscribe and come on back next time. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for joining me on A Bit of Insight. If something today stirred your curiosity or lit a spark, don't let it fade. Through Insight Getaways, I curate intentional travel experiences around the world, and I also help women book unforgettable journeys they design. Whether you want to explore solo, travel with friends, or join one of my escorted group adventures, there's a place for you. You'll find details, resources, and upcoming experiences at insightgetaways.com. Be sure to share this episode with someone who needs a little courage and clarity. Let's spread the message and reach more women ready for their next chapter. Until next time, live well, travel far, and inspire others.